Hello and welcome to Digitech. Today we're doing Is It More Than 2, which is a program where the user can put in a number and our program will tell them if it's more or less or equal to 2. So we're going to be practicing some input from the page so the user will be able to type in their number and if statements as well, because we're trying to get to grips with running different bits of code depending on checking some kind of condition. So the conditions that we're going to check today are going to be comparing the number to 2. So let's say the user puts in a 4, we're going to compare the number to 2, and our if statement somewhere will check if the number is more than 2, and 4 is more than 2, then it will say your number is more than 2, something like that. So the basic premise is fairly simple, but help us practice some of the skills that we need for more complex applications of if statements. So here I'm just checking the live reload, getting some basic HTML put together and updating the page just to test that the live reload thing works. But as soon as I save it, it should update the page. It just makes writing this code a little bit quicker when you don't have to click refresh or reopen files and muck around with that kind of thing. Next part is, as always, to connect to the jQuery library. You would have seen us do this quite a few times. Connecting to the jQuery library just provides a few helper functions to make it a little bit easier to code the stuff with. You just write a little bit less. The main one that we use, pretty much the only one that we use for a lot of these projects, is that dollar symbol, and click as well, I guess. So the dollar symbol replaces a line of code where you have to connect to your HTML document. And the dot click saves a few words when you're trying to get your page to listen for clicks. So we've just created our JavaScript file and written in that little console log that sends a secret message just to developers to let us know stuff that's happening inside our code. And then we'll connect the HTML directly to the JavaScript. And that defer keyword there at the end just says, don't run this code until the page is finished loading. And here we can open up our developer tools and see our secret message to ourselves that JavaScript is actually running. Most users are never going to open this up and have a look. So you can use console log for all kinds of debugging, seeing what's going on inside your program, what variables are at certain points and all that kind of thing. So now we're getting into the actual specifics of this program. And to start off with, we're just going to use a label and an input to create an area where the user can write in a number that they want to check against 2. We'll give it the ID num number. That num at the start indicates that this particular input is a number input. And the type input there at the end of the input, the type number at the end of the input, just restricts the user from typing in any letters or anything. This saves us having to check that they put in numbers. We know that the browser has only let them put in numbers. Underneath that, we've got a button with btn check, and then a result paragraph for us to put the output into. HTML's looking pretty good, so we'll check it in the browser, and it looks really good. Obviously, the button doesn't do anything at this stage, but you can see we can only put numbers into the input field. We don't have to worry about them writing in their name or anything like that. And that just saves a bit of time for us as coders. We don't have to double check that the user's doing what we expected. So we'll just add some click code for that button, the btn check. If your button doesn't work, one thing that's quite common to overlook is that little hashtag at the start. So the hashtag btn check. The hashtag indicates that the code is looking for the ID. So if you forget to put the hashtag in there, when you click the button, it won't work because the code doesn't know that it's supposed to be looking for an ID. We've got our first line of code here. If you've done any of the basic I/O projects, you'll remember this from then. We're getting the input from the input field, and then we're going to convert it to a number. Now, we know that the user typed in a number. However, in JavaScript, when we get the input from the user, it's always going to be as a sentence or a string, as a technical term for it. And so just so we can start doing some maths on it, we need to be able to compare the number to 2. So we need to convert that sentence from a sentence to a word, and that's what that line does. Now we're into our if statement, and the first line is if the number is greater than 2. We're just going to update that result with the number is more than 2. Now here's a new line of code where we're doing else if. So if you've got more than 2 conditions, then you can add in as many extra ones as you need using else if. It's still only going to run one block of code out of this group, but now you get a few more options. Rather than just if and else, you can do if, else, because we have 3 conditions, whether it's greater than 2, less than 2, or if they typed in 2, we just need to say it is 2. So here we've got 3 lines updating result, but because this is an if statement, only one of those lines is going to run. The first one that it comes across that's true, it's going to run that piece of code and ignore the others. And then the last line of code in this block, the text result.text, that one's always going to run, and it's just to update the page. So it's going to put whatever the result is into that paragraph, and that'll be the output to our users. Time to give it a test. So type in a number, and we get NaN is 2. Now, NaN stands for not a number, which means that our input hasn't worked or something's gone wrong here. And I can see in this line, I forgot the hashtag. So I didn't know where to look for that input because it didn't know that it was the ID. Now that we've updated it with the hashtag, we can see that 1 is less than 2. 2 is 2. And there's more than 2. Then we can try it with some other numbers, and it should be fairly robust. And we can try it with some things that it might not have expected, like negative numbers or 0. It's always good to try as many different things as you can think of to try to break your program. It's better to break your program when you're testing and be able to fix it than send it out into the world and have some users come across the problems that you didn't expect and didn't know were there. So, as any good coder does, I'm going to add some comments. It can be tempting to write comments for every single line of an if statement. However, it also, remember that the comments are supposed to describe the code. And now they don't need to do that line by line. But you can summarize the code at the top of an if statement rather than bloating it out with a comment on every single line. So here I've summarized about 7 lines of code or so with 1 line of comments. Now the comments still describe what's happening without explicitly describing every single little detail. If the person reading the comments wants to know the details, they can read the code over. So there we have it. We have input from the user, and we have an if statement that does something different depending on the input, and then outputting that result to the page. That'll do it for is it more than 2.